Good morning. I'm Jessica Einhorn. I'm the Dean of SAIS, and it is a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the school today. I hope you'll have a very full day. We do everything we can to let you learn enough about the school to make a wise decision for yourself with respect to whether SAIS is the place for you. Let me say that that's reflective, genuinely, of our notion that our greatest fiduciary duty is to give you an education. And education is not a wholesale business, it's a retail business. We understand what a superb student body we attract to SAIS. Adventuresome, idealistic. I'm not in loco parentis around here. The average age of the students is 26. There's tremendous civility and mutual respect on the campus. And our sense is, and you'll see it all day, I think, from the devoted faculty and the way the school is organized, that basically we have 2 years, you're making tremendous financial sacrifices and other kinds of commitments to come here. We have 2 years to give you the best possible education we can to prepare you for a productive and rewarding life of international engagement. And so that's what we're about. I've actually made the decision for SAIS twice in my life. I came here as a master's degree student, quite young, a long time ago, and from here I went to Princeton for my PhD, and my career was in finance at the World Bank, and then I came back to SAIS as dean. So what I can tell you is that SAIS is a lot tougher now than it was then. It's also much richer. There's a much bigger legacy. There's a huge number of alumni out there in great positions. In this city, we stand very tall. You'll see lots of people who know you, but you'll see it actually all over the world. What I think is important at the very outset of your day is to understand that one of the distinctive characteristics of SAIS, SAIS in Washington, but SAIS for our Bologna students who will be coming back to Washington, is that SAIS is a graduate school only. So we are a graduate school only, and we are focused on either that 1-year mid-career education or the 2-year education, or the dual degree education that some of you choose. But it is all graduate students, and as you'll hear from some of the other deans, the enrichment of the experience really seems to be enhanced enormously by the kinds of classmates you have. What we try and do here at SAIS is not have 2 surges of semesters a year, but to say that from the first day of preterm for those who choose it or for regular classes until commencement, we want you to know that you're SAIS students. So to us, SAIS is anchored in the classroom, and as you'll hear today, even the extracurricular is often anchored out of the academic area, the concentration you choose. It's a magical formula for taking an urban school with adults coming in and here for only 1 to 2 years and turning it into a series of communities who can get to know one another very quickly, share a passion for a particular subject, and have a whole range of activities around them. That said, there are also school-wide activities, hundreds of lectures and events. It's an exciting place to go to school, and Washington is, of course, your broader community. Paradoxically, we urge both focus and curiosity. So focus because we want you to treat it as the professional school, and as soon as you come in, start thinking about which sector, which area you'd like to work in first, so that we can work with you on career services, on internships, on the kinds of trips that you might be able to take, and curiosity because you may discover a new passion, and if you find that passion, you should follow it. Washington, D.C. itself is a city with a great and expanding menu of activities. Tremendous number of restaurants, some even affordable on a student budget, great theater, great arts, and really a lively scene. So I would love to go on talking to you, and I hope I'll be able to welcome many of you back during orientation. But to keep this thing going, let me quickly introduce my colleagues on the podium today with me, and then we'll go through the presentations. So Dean Bonnie Wilson is the Dean for Student Affairs, and she did all her graduate education at SAIS. She was a Bologna student and then a SAIS PhD. Dean Harrington, who will be severe with you today, is the academic dean of SAIS. He had his PhD in economics from Georgetown University, taught many, many years here in econometrics and statistics. Actually was quite an adored teacher because he made econometrics and statistics easily, or I should say understandably available to many students. Myron Kunke, who is our Senior Associate Dean for Finance and Administration, had an exceptional career in the Defense Department, in the U.S. government. He won highest civilian awards, including an extremely competitive one in which he went to the White House as a part of a group of small people for the highest award for service. And he knows how to lead us in what we'll call, even though you're students to us, a client-oriented school, which is ever focused on this fiduciary duty of giving you the opportunities that we can find. Technology, administration, we're always on improvement. And last but never least is the tremendous Ken Keller, who was only president of the University of Minnesota and almost started his career as department director in chemical engineering, which was the #1 program in the country at that time. Ken Keller was teaching as an adjunct at Bologna, and there was an opening, and the faculty, the permanent faculty there, called him and begged him to come and be their director, and then I was able to ride that wave all the way home because Ken Keller accepted that position and has been really giving great direction to Bologna. So welcome everyone, and Dean Wilson, the podium is yours.
Well, I'm just delighted to welcome all of you here today. Open House is a very important event for those of us in the Office of Student Affairs who've been responsible for the admissions process over these long months. It's the day when those endless stacks of admissions folders, the resumes, the test scores, the essays, the recommendations, the rest, become real faces, real personalities, real people. Today, for us, the process comes alive. And the hard work for us is over because we've made our choices. And now it's your turn. You have to decide whether SAIS is what you want. And we certainly hope that as a result of what you learn today, together with what you already know about our school, that your answer will be a resounding yes. Why? Why SAIS? Well, of course, the academic program. But I don't want to talk about that. We'll leave that to others. But I want to mention some other reasons. And since, as Dean Einhorn mentioned, I'm also a graduate of this institution, I feel like I'm in a good position to make the case. It can't be repeated often enough that SAIS is in Washington. In terms of faculty, speakers, research facilities, opportunities to interact with the international community, internships, future job prospects, Washington is unmatched. Besides, it really is exciting to live here. Washington is a cultural center. It's an international center. It's the hub of the national government. It's one of the largest technology centers in the country. SAIS is in Washington. Oh, but it's not just in Washington. We are global, not just in our program, but in our physical presence. And I don't need to tell you much about Bologna because half of the entering MA class will do the first year at the Bologna Center. And Director Keller will be telling you more about Bologna in a minute. But as a graduate of the center myself, I have to say that Bologna offers something unique, both academically and in terms of a life experience. Just ask any returning Bologna student, and I think they'll tell you that the year they spent there was one of the best years of their life. Similarly, for those of you who are interested in Asia, and particularly China, and it seems there are more and more of you these days, the Nanjing Center offers an extraordinary opportunity. If you're admitted into that program, you study international relations in China, in Chinese, with Chinese students. How better to learn about this critical part of the world? Location, location, location. Well, then there are those of you who are interested in pursuing a dual degree, and we try to offer a number of options. We have formal arrangements with Wharton, Tuck, and INSEAD business schools, with the University of Virginia and Stanford Law Schools, with the Bloomberg School of Public Health at Hopkins, and with the Maxwell School of Public Policy. In addition, we try to accommodate students who want to put together relevant ad hoc joint degrees with top universities. We really do try to be as flexible as we can in that respect. Well, besides location and degree programs, another advantage of SAIS is its size. We're large enough to offer a wide-ranging academic program, but small enough to be a community of friends. This has always been the case, and it's one of the reasons why our alumni network, which numbers approximately 15,000 and stretches around the globe, why it's so strong and supportive. We feel that the SAIS experience should be more than just a formal education. We encourage students to involve themselves in activities outside the classroom. There are about 35 different student organizations covering a wide range of interests. Coordinated by a strong student government, these clubs sponsor lectures, conferences, trips, holiday parties, an international dinner, a Mr. and Ms. SAIS contest, a talent show, dances, and of course the famous Friday night happy hours. And if you haven't been to one of our happy hours, I really do encourage you to come Friday night because they're quite something special. Students at SAIS are also involved in the local community. They've worked in homeless shelters and neighborhood projects. They've gone into the inner city high schools to try to involve students in the field of international relations. They've held panel discussions, talks, organized crisis simulations. There's even one group of SAIS students that teaches a course in conflict management at a local middle school. Well, another advantage of being a relatively small school is that the faculty and the administration can place a priority on interaction with students. As Dean Einhorn mentioned, we are a graduate school and only a graduate school. Our full-time faculty teaches at SAIS and only at SAIS. They teach the courses, not graduate assistants. They are here, they are accessible, they don't just come in one day a week from a related department of a huge university. By the same token, our students are graduate students. Our classes are not filled with undergraduates taking upper-level courses. Because of our size and freestanding nature, our classes tend to be smaller than is the case in many large city universities. I'm not going to say that our required core courses, for example, aren't relatively large, and by that I mean 40, 45 students. And there are a few classes that have limited enrollment and go to bid. But if you look at the array of about 250 courses that we offer each year, the average class size is 18 students, if I'm not wrong. Is that correct?
17.
17. This means that professors can get to know students in the classroom and vice versa. Well, that brings me to the last reason why you should choose SAIS. Well, I mean, it's the last reason I'm going to mention. I could go on forever with lots of reasons. But in some ways, this is one of the most compelling, and Dean Einhorn made reference to it. And that's the quality of your fellow students. There's just an incredible, wonderful group of people at this school. The average age of an incoming MA student is 26, 27, which means that virtually all of you have had relevant work experience before coming back to school. In addition, there's a small mid-career program that places international affairs professionals in the classroom. Almost all of our students have lived for a year or more outside their native countries, and a third of the student body here in DC and half of the student body in Bologna is made up of non-US citizens, this year coming from some 65 different countries. I always like to say, and if you have the good judgment to accept our offer, you'll probably hear me say it again, SAIS really is a place where international relations can be lived as well as learned. So, you have one day to look around. Please use it to the fullest. Visit professors in their offices. Try to attend a class. Come to see us in the offices of Student Affairs. I apologize. I mean, we're on the second, third, and fourth floor, but only one of our elevators is working today, so you may have to resort to the steps. But please come and see us. You'll be having sessions on financial aid, career services, Bologna, Nanjing, dual degrees, and the rest. But if you have other questions, please don't hesitate to come and ask. Be sure to take advantage of the panels today. There's a wonderful panel of our professors, student life, economics, and there will be also in the the lunch. Don't forget to go to the lunch. You'll pick up your boxed lunches out in the lobby and go to classes assigned according to your areas of concentration. There'll also be tables set up in the afternoon corresponding to concentrations and other student activities. Don't miss the alumni panel this afternoon at 5. That's always very, very informative. And the reception afterwards. Most of all, try to get to know some of our students. Get a feel for the life of the school. We're very proud of what we do here, and we very much want you to be a part of it. Thank you.
Good morning. Again, I'm John Harrington, the Academic Dean, and I'm also really want to welcome you to the Open House. Just looking out here, I am so delighted that so many of us that we have decided on, that you all have decided to come and learn more about SAIS. So this is, as Dean Wilson and Dean Einhorn said, a very exciting day for us. So I'm going to talk more about academics. Dean Wilson spoke more broadly about student life here at SAIS. The academic strength of SAIS is a strong curriculum carried out by a superb faculty, both full-time and part-time. The SAIS MA curriculum rests on 3 legs. The first leg is one's functional or regional specialization. Most students take 6 courses to meet this requirement. The second leg is international economics. Students take 4 to 6 courses in economics depending on prior study. The third leg is language study. All SAIS students must demonstrate a working knowledge of a language relevant to their course of study. And keep in mind that language study cannot be done without exposure to culture. Students also take a number of electives to round out their studies for a total of 16 non-language courses. And students in the dual degree programs meet all of their requirements in 12 courses. I mentioned the faculty. You'll be able to meet and hear from some of our full-time faculty in the panel that follows. You will also be able to meet and talk with other faculty during the various other events and over lunch today. SAIS has a first-class full-time faculty. Full-time faculty teach 4 courses a year and are available to SAIS students. This is their job, and teaching, researching, and being active in their specialized area are their main responsibilities. It is a highly published faculty who takes seriously the goal of scholarship that makes a difference to policy. Being located in Washington also helps to have an exceptional adjunct or part-time faculty drawn from policy practitioners. These people are those who work at the Department of State, U.S. Treasury, at the Federal Reserve, at the World Bank, and at some of the best think tanks in the country: Brookings, Resources for the Future, Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, and so on. After work, they come here to teach to SAIS and teach some of exceptional courses. So what makes SAIS stand out among international relations school? First is the requirement that all MA students have a concentration in international economics. We believe that one must understand economics in order to understand the pressures for change in the world. Gordon Bodner, the director of our International Economics program, will be moderating a session today at 12:20, where you will hear some of the details of the program, including opportunities for various specializations in economics. The second factor that makes SAIS stand out among international relations school is our emphasis on regional or area studies. SAIS has a comparative advantage in regional studies, having some of the strongest programs in the country. While this is obviously important for those concentrating in a specific region, it is also important for those focused on some functional aspect of international relations or international development. Both through requirements and electives, almost all SAIS graduates have focused their studies on some region of the world by taking at least several courses. For example, students of conflict management may take electives in African studies in order to put some specifics in their study of techniques of negotiation. Students of strategic studies might take electives in Asia to learn more about the history and politics of that region. While some of these courses may seem challenging to you, you need to know that you were selected based on your excellent preparation and background, and each of you is capable of doing very well here at SAIS. While your overall preparation is excellent, we have found that many of you can use a refresher introduction to many of the mathematics topics used at SAIS in the economics program. This year, for the first time, we have an online self-study course to accompany a series of math lectures given by me that are provided to you on DVD. This online course has practice problems with solutions, quizzes, and exams. Students who matriculate will receive this course mid-May, and I urge you to take full advantage of this. Let me end with a reminder that SAIS instituted over 10 years ago a program that runs from late July to orientation that we call preterm. It is optional, but many students have found it invaluable for getting the full benefit of the SAIS experience. The main goal of preterm is to help incoming students meet some of the foundation requirements in economics, taking one or both of intermediate micro and intermediate macro. Preterm also has a mathematics course for those not able to pass a basic test in pre-calculus, and an ESL course for those who need work on their English. Please look closely at that program. There is clear information on the preterm website, and we'll be discussing this briefly during the International Economics session at 12:20 today. And I will be available throughout the day if you have any questions on this subject or any aspect of the academics at SAIS. Again, welcome to our open house. Ask and learn questions. This is an important day for you to learn as much as you can about SAIS. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Myron Kunka. I'm the Senior Associate Dean, and I'd like to welcome all of you and congratulate you on your admittance to SAIS, whether it was to Washington, Bologna, or the Hopkins Nanjing Center. As the Senior Associate Dean here at SAIS, it's my job to make sure that this place operates and runs as smoothly as possible. In that role, my responsibilities include the financial management of the organization, the business services, facilities, human resources, logistics, information technology, safety and security, the library, communications, public support. So you can see it's all the non-academic areas of the school, and it's quite a challenging and very interesting job. In some way or another, if you come to SAIS, you will have some interaction with just about any of those areas, whether you decide to accept your admittance here to Washington, Bologna, or Hopkins Nanjing. We do have 3 buildings, and I hope you're able to visit all of them today. This building is the NISA building. We have 2 buildings across the street. One is the Bernstein office building right across here, and further down is the Rome building. Just caution you, if you try to cross the street right in the middle of the street, as opposed to on the at the block crosswalks. Just be careful. And I try to keep things going here, but I'm not responsible for the weather, so you might get wet. Hopefully, it will improve a little bit later in the day. If there's anything that I could do for you while you're here, or if you have any questions, please stop by. I'm on the 3rd floor. Ask anybody up there. They'll certainly, they know where I are, and I'll be happy to talk with you and answer any questions that you may have. Also, while you're here today, I would just like to ask you to try to take some time and visit our library on the 6th floor. We are very proud of our library here in Washington, as well as in Bologna and Nanjing. We've got wonderful library facilities, all of our locations, and we're very proud of those. The library certainly will be near and dear to your heart as a student here, wherever you may decide to attend. And we do have a wonderful and very professional staff that really emphasizes high-level customer service, and they will do anything they can to provide and be responsive to all of your needs here as a student, as well as the SAIS community. So please take the time to visit the library if you can today, and I think it'll be worth your while. Again, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to stop by. I want to congratulate you again on your acceptance here at the SAIS, and hope that you choose SAIS and continue to be part of our community. I chose SAIS almost 4 years now ago to continue my career in national security and international affairs, and I hope you do too. It's a wonderful place to be. Thank you.
Well, good morning to all of you, and again, congratulations. I know you've got a tough decision ahead of you, but it's a happy one. I'm sure you're all choosing from a lot of interesting possibilities. I'm happy to join, I would call them my fellow deans, but I'm actually not a dean. You see, I'm a director. Now, you want to know what the difference is between a dean and a director? I actually don't know. But I do know there's a difference from my colleague across the street in Bologna at the University of Bologna. He is not a director, he is a rector. And in Italy, a rector is known as Rettore Magnifico. And he's called in informal conversations Magnifico. So I've been striving to see if we could get a change. So far without success. I don't know how many of you know where Bologna is. Actually, we have a slight inferiority complex. It does go back 1,000 years, but we still have an inferiority complex, not helped by the fact that when I first came to Bologna, we had to find a high school for my daughter. So I know how to Google, so I typed in high school, Bologna, and we got 6,000 hits. It was the lunch menu of all the American high schools. So that isn't where it is. I'm going to be serious now for just a couple of minutes. It really is a delight to be here. And we talk about the uniqueness of SAIS. And I think sometimes underemphasized, but probably not underemphasized, that one of the unique aspects of it is that there are several ways to go through SAIS. Dean Einhorn described some of the joint programs we have. And you really have a choice. About half of the students begin in Bologna. You have the choice, of course, of 2 years here in Washington. You have the choice, for many of you, of a year in Bologna and a year here in Washington, and in a growing way, the year in Nanjing, coupled with a time here in Washington. And that is unique. I think that's something that's grown and developed over a very long time at SAIS. Bologna is now in its 56th year, and about half of our class will come from among the group here, but the other half we're now recruiting. We're now in the middle of our admissions sessions in the rest of the world, and ultimately the class we put together will comprise about half Americans, those who are mostly here, and half coming from somewhere between 35 and 40 other countries. It used to be they were primarily Western European countries, and that's no longer the case. We now, I think our second or third largest group is from China this year. So those things are changing in a good way, and there are very good reasons why one would select the 2-year program here or the program in Bologna and Washington. And obviously, in my speaking to you today, by the way, we multitask, so you'll see me on about 4 different panels. We have a couple of others with me. Nelson Graves, our Director of Admission, is with me, and Eric Jones, I see in the back, a professor, and Gabriella Chiappini, our Director of Development, and Mira Shanker, who handles alumni and career services, are all with us. We were able to make the trip by arranging for the custodial responsibilities to be taken up by other people while we were here, but it's because we do a lot of different things. In any event, you'll get a chance to see me several times today, and I can expand more on things that I think are important. But what I would say is, as you think about Bologna and about the combination, there are themes that I will emphasize. One is a theme of community, another is a theme of diversity, a third is perspective, and a fourth is location. Those are the 4 things that I will talk about repeatedly in various ways today. And the issue of community is one that's well known. The student experience in Bologna is an extraordinary experience. It's an experience of bonding, it's an experience of sharing, and precisely because we have students from 35 or 40 countries sharing in that and drawn together in a building which is a very lovely building, in a city which is a very interesting place, through the course of the year you develop what are known as the Bolognese, the students who form a very close association, and you'll meet many of them today because they come here for the 2nd year, and I think that has been a very important start on their career. When I speak about diversity, I am speaking about these 30 or 40 different countries that are represented in the classroom, and because we are an American university, really the only American graduate school permanently located in Europe in public affairs, because we're an American school and teach like an American school, there's an engagement in each of the classrooms in which the dialogue that takes place among students is as important as anything else. And that diversity then is reflected in how they approach various subjects. And one of the things that's important to understand is that we are not primarily concerned with European studies, although European studies is an important part of our program. Instead, we are interested in this more global, this perspective on global problems: energy, environment, human rights, security, trade, any number of areas which are now global problems are addressed by people who come from very different backgrounds. So I usually use the phrase that the transatlantic dialogue is not a goal, but it is a tool by which we address in our program the global problems in which people are engaged. And that perspective is also different, not in a negative way, from the perspective that you have here in Washington. So in effect, over the 2 years, you're exposed to, I would call it a primarily European perspective while you spend your year in Bologna, and primarily an American perspective here, although I don't want either of those to be interpreted in any denigrating way. It's that you hear the same subjects discussed from a different point of view. If you discuss today what's going on in Libya, the conversation in Bologna is different from the conversation in Washington. And so in effect, in all of these areas over the 2 years, you who are students hear a debate displaced in time between a different perspective in one year from the next, frequently looking at many of the same issues, but looking at them in those different kinds of ways. Location in Washington has enormous positive aspects. So does location in Bologna. To give you an idea, we have a trip beginning tomorrow in which 20 of our students are going to Israel and the West Bank on a trip that they've arranged themselves. They could, at our break in a 3-hour trip, be over in Israel making the final arrangements. 20 of them will go in an affordable trip. They will be meeting with the Palestinian Prime Minister. They'll be meeting with representatives of the Israeli government. They'll be meeting with Palestinian NGOs, and they'll be meeting with representatives of settlements, of Israeli settlements. They'll have a week's trip, which is feasible and practical and 4 hours away from where we are. At the moment, with all the things going on in North Africa, we have been living in each day the issues of Tunisian refugees coming across into Italy, of Libyan, of the arguments going on within the European Union on intervention in North Africa. These are possibilities that come out of our location that are different from the kinds of possibilities that come out of the Washington location, both of which are important, and how you take them into account in your own decision depends on where your interests are. So obviously, we're very enthusiastic about the programs that we've developed as part of SAIS, as an integral part of SAIS, and would be happy to expand on them, but your choice is a good one. Whether you choose to spend 2 years in Washington, or a year in Bologna, a year in Washington, or go to Nanjing, the choice is a good one. I'm a great enthusiast of SAIS, and I get some more chances later on to talk with you. So welcome again, and we'll see each other through the day.
Thank you, Magnifico. Why don't we open up, or have we? Yeah, we have plenty of time. So let's open up to some questions from any of you. I don't know who wants to break the ice, and we can talk from there. If you will, just stand up, tell us which campus you're accepted for, and then let us know what you'd like to know more about. Otherwise, I'm sure we have lots more to talk about ourselves. Maybe while you're thinking about a question, and I will encourage you to do so, let me just say that when I was a graduate student, did my PhD at Princeton, and I had an undergraduate at Barnard and here, and I had some other studies as well, even a year at the London School of Economics. I found, interestingly, that it was a very kind environment. I think it comes from elite institutions like SAIS. We put our care into the admissions process. We have no rules or regulations telling us what population we have to take in. We understand that it's a great market out there, and you are very important prizes in that market. You can choose amongst your schools. But what I say in that admissions process, and what all my colleagues do as well, is that we're looking for students who can succeed very well at SAIS. And what we hope is that you'll have as much belief in yourselves as we have in you. We have no interest in choosing students who will be overwhelmed by the economics. It's painful to us, it's painful to watch. So those of you who have questions about what is known, actually celebrated as a very demanding curriculum in international affairs, should speak freely about that today, because we want you to succeed, and we want you to feel pretty secure about that success. I often say that after decades of career, there was somewhere along the line I had an epiphany that, with 360-degree feedback and surveys and performance reviews and all the rest of professional life is about what you're contributing and how you're being measured on that contribution. Of course, you all do contribute to a community at SAIS, but in reality, for me, and I certainly aspire for you, I view graduate school as the last place where you are where we're really not trying to get anything out of you, and heaven knows you do have the burden of high tuition. The whole point is to give you what you can tell us you want, and what we think you can use in order, again, and I say it because it's so important to us, to engage in a productive and rewarding life of international engagement. We are about something serious here. I think we do it with a lot of joy, and we're helped by the geography, whether, as my colleagues have said, in Bologna or Nanjing, but particularly everybody then comes for some portion of their education to Washington. Cross that street carefully, and you will find Brookings, the Carnegie Endowment. Stay on this side of the street, and you'll find the Center for Global Development, which is the #1 think tank in economic development, probably in the world. You'll find the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Look at some of their websites. You'll find the American Enterprise Institute. CSIS, which is a very well-known and respected think tank, is just a few blocks away, headed by a SAIS graduate. Center for Global Development is headed by a SAIS graduate. The Treasury is headed by a SAIS graduate, Tim Geithner. So there's a lot of familiarity with SAIS, and people who come here to teach are adjuncts, of which we have 110. It may be that they're talking to the dean, so they sweeten it, but basically I have heard only great pleasure. People find it amazing to be in classrooms with SAIS students because they're so sophisticated, so curious, and so adventuresome and idealistic. So let me open again to see if there are any questions for anyone here, and otherwise we'll give you a bit of a break and we'll start promptly at 9:30, is that right?
Yes, but could I just add, I want to thank our wonderful admissions office, because they're the ones that have done all the hard work in this process. Sydney Jackson. They've just done a terrific job, and we appreciate it so much. Questions?
Anybody else on the panel?
There's somebody.
Thank you. My name is Natalie Lawson. I was accepted into the DC campus. My question is probably, I don't know if it's too personal, but it was regarding the investment one makes into SAIS. It's not only one of effort and time, but it's also a tremendous financial investment. And so I had a question regarding the returns that you received considering your financial investment. So I want to see, given the cost of the school, how long did it take for you guys to see this return pay off in your personal life?
Right. Thank you. If you're speaking of financial return, the dispersion is quite great, but let me say that there is a brochure, and if it's not out now, we'll put it right up there on student services, prepared by Ron Lambert, who may be here today, on career services, that gives you a sense of who the employers are and what the starting salaries are. I think on the multilateral organizations, it may be the net salaries, not grossed up the way they actually operate in Washington for Americans. But when you come in on the first day, what I will be saying is that most of you will be, there are three sectors at least. So there's the nonprofit sector, there's the profit sector, and there's the government multilateral organization sector, and then there's also some do journalism, some do doctorates, et cetera. The path you take will, of course, correlate with very disparate income streams. And you should think about that. I mean, you should think about the financial aid you're taking on and what kind of a life you're going to lead and how long that burden will be. That's not to say that you should all go into the finance sector, because that's definitely not been the experience at SAIS. But I'm glad you asked the question, because we are not carefree or careless about that notion. But the returns are really decided by the students, because the education you get can equip you for extremely lucrative lives in private equity and energy in the private sector. We have alumni who have gone on to be CEOs. DirecTV is run by a SAIS graduate, and obviously many other things. So what we say is that you're likely to be in more than two of those sectors in at least two of those sectors over your lifetime. But try and figure out early on when you come in what your first step is, not what your whole career is. Let your passion take you. It certainly did for me, and it did for my colleagues. Let your passion take you on your career, but figure out where you're trying to go on your first step, and then look for the position and for the education that suits you for that. But don't think that you'll be in that sector necessarily over your entire lifetime. You might well move from government into the private sector, or from the private sector into the nonprofit sector, or across international organizations. And so we do try and be transparent, and it's a terribly important question for everyone to think about.
As the other SAIS graduate, I'll add, when I came here, the tuition was $1,200 for the year, so that kind of places me. And so I can't really answer your question very honestly. But let me say, come to the alumni panel tonight, because that is often a question that gets asked of the alums who speak. And they have accumulated the kind of debt that probably you're faced with as well. But I think that in general, their answer will be, it was well worth every penny that I borrowed. But I think they'll be able to give you probably a good answer to that question, even if I can't.
Question here?
Is anybody else on the panel have anything to add on that? Okay, no more questions.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you all for taking the time to come and speak to us. My name is Malika Rafai, and I was...
Raise that mic so the people back there can hear you.
Okay. I'm Malika Rafai, admitted to the Washington campus, will be doing my master's and focusing on conflict resolution. And I wanted to ask about academic support networks. Are there any systems in place at SAIS whereby, either organized by administration where students can get together and form, subject matter cloisters or anything like that to kind of facilitate the process and encourage further discussion outside the classroom among students?
I mean, we have a large number of career clubs that I think are extraordinarily active to really bring students who have particular focus. I mean, this is actually more your area than mine, I guess, Bonnie, but it's, finance and I think in conflict management. That's one of the most active programs we have here. I mean, I talked in my very brief remarks about these different focus areas that students have, but since you've asked about conflict management, that's, they have courses that have trips involved. They have they have monthly meetings here at SAIS dealing with the whole conflict management community. There's a huge opportunity for students in that area to not only be involved with each other, but be involved with a much broader conflict management community, conflict resolution, peace community, whatever you want to call it. That actually is one of our very exciting areas.
Isn't there special tutorial sessions in some of the classes?
Well,
in the economics.
in economics, but I think you were asking more about focus area. I mean, we certainly have TA session. Most of the foundation economics classes have TA sessions to help with the economics. You'll hear more about that with Professor Bodner a little bit later, but.
Yeah.
By the way, the gentleman standing back there at the pole is Dean Lampton, who's the Dean of Faculty and also a great China scholar, the head of the China program and the intellectual leadership for our Nanjing Center. So Professor David Lampton's back there.
Yes, thank you for speaking with us today. My name is Torian Barnwell. I've been admitted into the Washington, D.C. campus this fall for the Japan Studies program. I want to ask you about professional development here at SAIS. I understand that that is something that begins here from day one. So I just want to know if you can explain a little bit to us about that.
We offer about, I think it's about 30 professional development courses. Almost all of these are free of charge, and they're operated out of the Career Services office. And I'm sure you'll be learning a lot more about those special skills courses when Career Services has their panel with you. They've proven very, very successful. They're also offered, a few of them are offered at the Bologna campus, but Director Keller might want to expand upon that. A few of them are online, so they're available in both Bologna and Nanjing. But they are, I guess we started them about 4 years ago, and each year we add additional courses to that. We recognize it as a they're non-credit, non-required, but we recognize them as a very, very important aspect of your education at SAIS.
But I think maybe I'll jump in. There's also a very structured program right from the beginning, courses on how you prepare yourself for the career following your 2-year education here, or 1 year for the mid-career master's program. On Fridays, there's a very set course that you will be asked to take. There's learning about how to do resumes, how to do interviews, and all kinds of things dealing with how networking, how you actually prepare yourself for careers in general. Some of you have already done that, but this is a very structured program that really moves our students into a very way to deal professionally in the world of international affairs.
And also internships.
Let me just add 2 points to that also. One I want to stress is why are these non-credit? They're non-credit because we want you to get a degree from the School of Advanced International Studies. And so with only 16 courses at your disposal over the course of 2 years, for those of you who are here for 2 years, we really want to encourage and enable you to be in that classroom with the superb faculty in the most challenging learning experiences in international affairs. All of this other material that we give you, and it's part of our view that you are not just going through 2 academic surges, that this is a professional school from the first day of preterm until the day of graduation. We're thinking of ways in which we can enhance that learning experience. A big part of the learning experience, even from my time, but all the way through, is this notion of so many of your faculty, including our full-time faculty who are engaged in the international life, and some of whom have been in government or in think tanks, and definitely the adjuncts. You're really getting a sense of what professionalism and what professional engagement is in the field of international affairs, plus all the speakers who are coming through. So we're quite clear about the fact that we want to make sure that your internship doesn't count towards your degree unless it's a really engaged practicum where there's a tremendous amount of academic aspect to it. We don't want to free ride on your experience. We want to enhance your experience. The last thing I would say is we've already had a pilot or 2, and it will be expanding during your time here in leadership training. And that's people signing up for a several-day module. And our first tests have been very successful, and we're looking forward to that expanding over the time here.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is that there are career trips, so that Bologna students make a career trip to London, mostly to the city of London, but also to Brussels. And in addition to that, we have our alumni weekend in the 2 weeks, and I think 35 or 40 alumni will conduct individual sessions for students to come and talk to them about where their careers have gone and what opportunities there are in various areas. As Dean Harrington said, some of these courses are required. Learning to prepare your resume, for example, is, I think, required. Others are available optionally, and some are done jointly between the 2 campuses with video conferencing.
Hi, my name is Marisol Trowbridge, and I was accepted to the DC campus. I actually have 2 questions. I'm just wondering first if there are any exchange opportunities, either with other schools in the U.S. or with international schools for maybe a semester or something like that. And then I'm also wondering, with such a set program, how do students fit in sort of additional coursework or some flexibility into their program? So, thank you.
Well, I'll ask Dean Harrington to talk about the joint, but I will say that there's scope for electives if you're here for 2 years. And in any event, there's of course scope for choice because of what you're choosing as your concentration and those kinds of requirements. But I think the very worthwhile choices of a semester abroad that's related to the few programs that have those kinds of exchanges, or a decision, which is also extremely worthwhile, of going for a dual degree, those do shrink the amount of expression of personal interest that can occur during your time here at SAIS.
So we probably have right now only one existing exchange program, and that is with the International Relations School in Moscow. We had one with Ditella University in Buenos Aires. And our experience with these exchange programs, while they're in some sense great, the SAIS students who go to these other universities find their education far less quality than they get here. And there's been a lot of unhappiness. So we have resisted these exchange programs. Even the one now in Moscow is handled somewhat differently. So we have been approached by many schools to have exchange programs. We've resisted them because the SAIS students, when we've done this, has not been very successful. I'll just add to what Dean Einhorn said. Even though we have structure in the curriculum, you all have to do economics, and you must do either a functional or regional studies. Within that, there's a lot of flexibility, and with electives, there's a lot of flexibility. So you end up with, well, structure, and this is what I want to emphasize, is structure, but flexibility within that structure. I was hoping there'd be a question on language, because I only added one sentence on language in my prepared remarks. So let me take this opportunity since I have the stage. We have to answer the question that no one asked. We have a really great language program. We teach 16 languages. We make language, I think, a key part of the SAIS education, because to be in international affairs, unlike myself, which is I'm a language challenged economist, language is very important. We have our own language program. As I said, we have 16 languages that we teach, all taught by native speakers, and all using really the latest techniques in language acquisition. Lots of technology, but really thoughtful way that we prepare and instruct in language. So I just wanted to add that's a key part. And your question is right on. There's structure, but flexibility within that structure.
So I'm going to conclude it now and ask you to give us your questions, because I can see our panel is already approaching, and it's a terrific panel. I'll just end up with one story that reminded me of. We had a young man in our family, a cousin who was really into numbers, and he was doing a PhD in applied mathematics. And we were having a hot chocolate once on a Christmas day, and I said to him, "What foreign language have you studied?" And he said, "Oh, I don't do foreign languages." He said, "I've never understood why you would learn a new language to perform the same function." So I said, "Well, try going to the bathroom in Italy." In any event, have a good day.